Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be reacting to
how the left won South Korea's presidential election. So it's been a lot of commotion, Karina and whatnot. So let's see. I guess Karina's politicking didn't work out.
This video is brought to you by Ground
I'm assuming the red is right though. I don't know. Let's see.
News. On Tuesday, South Korea held an early presidential election triggered by the impeachment and removal of Conservative former President Yoon Suk-yeol, who 6 months ago plunged the country into crisis with his short-lived imposition of martial law. Tuesday's election was won by left-wing opposition leader Lee Jae-myung, whose convincing victory over his right-wing opponent represents a considerable political...
You see that microphone has number 2?
Lee Jae-myung,
That's interesting.
whose
Really? Oh, okay.
convincing
And
victory
red,
over
too.
his right-wing
Interesting.
opponent represents a considerable political shift for South Korea. So in this video, we're going to explain the South Korean presidential election, including its context and results, the domestic and foreign policy implications, and whether it finally means an end to the country's political turbulence and deep polarization.
I don't know. The
By
track record
subscribing
don't show
and
that.
ringing the
Yeah, because
I'm
we've
up for a
seen
change.
like almost every
Every
president
year.
of theirs
other
gets
year.
impeached. So it's like, who cares?
bell.
Well,
The
we'll
election was a two-horse race between Lee Jae-myung, leader of the opposition centre-left Democratic Party or DPK, and Kim Moon-soo, a staunch conservative from the People Power Party or PPP, who served as Labour Minister under Yoon Suk-yeol. There were some third-party candidates too, most notably the Reform Party's Lee Jun-suk, who founded the party last year after splitting from the PPP. As the polls anticipated,
Lee
the
Jun-suk,
DPK's
he looked
lead
very edgy. He looks very youthful with his eyebrows slashed to the side.
won a resounding victory with more than 49% of the vote, defeating his conservative opponent Kim Moon-soo, who received
how
just
much?
over 41%.
Ooh.
And in a very distant third place was Lee Jun-suk on more
He
than
didn't even stand a
8%.
chance. Why even
The preliminary
bother?
voter turnout
He
of
took-
79.4%
He took votes.
is
Honestly,
the
he
highest-
took votes. I'm so curious now where his politics, kind of lie. Because taking 8% of the vote and
It's-
the difference between the two.
It would be interesting. Like, I guess in Korea, you don't have to do that rerun if nobody reaches 50.
Yeah.
Because this would be very different. I feel like if we had, like the European, how we see like in
Yeah.
Poland, I think Romania also, where there's a runoff election if nobody hits 50. This would be very different because then the 8% would drop. And since he took from PPP, would those 8% return to PPP, basically making it
Yeah.
49 and 49?
That's why I low-key sometimes get annoyed with the
So-
third party, because honestly, I feel like if you're a third party,
Nah, you need parties.
You need to.
I
No,
do
but
not-
listen.
no.
Listen what I'm going to say. I'm going to say at least start a little bit more commotion. You only did 8%. That means you didn't do enough.
Okay,
So why did you
but
even
if
bother?
if Ron DeSantis won and took 8% off from Trump, Kamala would be president.
in 20
Well, that's the whole point of these third party here in the States, is really to take votes. It's not really,
Yeah.
they're gonna intentions is to, actually run things.
Okay, but
It's just-
listen, the
You don't
party.
hear what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying.
So what is it to listen about?
The party was formed last year, and he already took 8% in just 1 year. Imagine 2-3 election cycles, 8%, 16%, 24%.
course, yeah.
In 4
But I'm
election cycles,
thinking-
this party might be another 40%.
But this is like only like the first run of it.
So what you saying? The first run shouldn't happen. Oh, just don't run. No, it
No,
has
I
to
didn't-
happen at some point.
No, I'm not saying that, but that means the other parties have to work harder.
Yes, it does. Yeah, but clearly there was disagreement between the
Yeah,
parties. That's why he
because
split
no
off.
one is over 50%.
Yeah, but it's unrealistic to have people that's either left or right. Like some people have like they lean a little left,
and
a
they should
little-
have.
but they also
they should
believe
have.
it's right.
They should have more, but I wonder if this person was like out of nowhere, or like from the private sector who decided to go in and was it not known enough, or someone who's been in the industry, has been working, putting up the work, and they were able to get this many
That
votes.
I don't know.
years, highlighting the importance the public placed on the election. So, who is now President Lee Jae-myung? Well, we'll come on to policy details later, but 61-year-old Lee has had a life and career full of ups and downs. His genuine rags to riches story has seen him work his way from poor child labourer to human rights lawyer to governor of South Korea's
Wow.
most populous province.
Very
Lee
inspirational.
very nearly won the last election in 2022, but was defeated by Yoon Suk-yeol in what was the closest presidential election in
How
South
close?
Korean history. Lee is a populist and has been described in the press with terms like bullish, pugnacious, and unconventional. Perhaps unsurprisingly then, he's a polarising figure, with plenty of strong supporters, as well as plenty of staunch opponents. His political career has been dogged with criminal indictments, and last year he even survived being stabbed in the neck by a would-be assassin. But the key to understanding this presidential election is to know why it happened 2 years early in the first place. So we're going to briefly wind the clock back
So
and recap.
do people not like him or do they like him?
That's what I'm confused.
I'm
'cause
confused.
We're talking about the president who just got elected, right?
Yeah.
So he's a populist. He got what? So how is he on?
How did he win?
Yeah, I'm so confused by this.
The dramatic martial law debacle and subsequent turmoil. On the 3rd of December last year, late at night, then President Yoon Suk-yeol, citing obstructionism by the opposition-controlled National Assembly, imposed martial law, i.e. military rule, something that had not been done since South Korea's democratization. Enough lawmakers soon gathered at the National Assembly and voted to overturn the declaration. Among the chaotic scenes that night, Lee Jae-myung live-streamed himself climbing the fence to bypass troops and get into the Parliament building. The vote, coupled with growing protests, forced Yoon to back down, and after just 6 hours, he lifted martial law. He was later impeached by lawmakers, a move that was upheld months later by the Constitutional Court, which removed Yoon from office, triggering a snap presidential election that the main party suddenly had to contend with. For the centre-left opposition DPK, Lee Jae-myung, despite his various legal troubles, was really the only realistic choice, and he was comfortably selected as its candidate.
But he don't seem like much better either. Like, I get he's like on the left party, but I don't feel like people like him too much.
Yeah.
However, the ruling Conservative
Unless I'm
PPP
missing
had a
something.
much trickier time choosing theirs, having been divided and damaged by the martial law saga. The PPP membership initially selected former Labour activist turned hardline Conservative politician Kim Moon-soo, but party leadership then sought to replace him with former Prime Minister and acting President Han Duck-soo instead, sparking tense infighting.
What's interesting is that, they were short on time because they wanted to have this election ever since the martial law.
Yes.
So just finding a person last minute to run and to win is going to be quite difficult.
And legal challenges, which resulted in Kim being selected after all. Kim Moon-soo was a pretty controversial choice, not least for some past derogatory
And he was
remarks.
controversial?
But notably,
They're both
he was perhaps the
controversial.
politician most openly opposed to removing Yoon from office post-martial law. Unsurprisingly then, this was a natural attack point for Lee, suggesting a Kim victory would mean a return of insurrectionists, while Kim in turn portrayed a Lee presidency as potentially dangerous and unchecked by the DPK-controlled parliament. Regardless, what does Lee Jae-myung's victory mean for South Korea? Well, it obviously does represent a leftward shift for the country, though it's worth pointing out that during this election campaign, Lee notably tried to rebrand from progressive populist to pragmatic centrist in order to appeal to crucial swing voters in the centre, and he omitted universal basic income, once his passion project, from his campaign promise. Lee has pledged that his top priorities will be to revive the struggling economy and focus on the cost of living for low and middle income families and small business owners. He's also proposed amending the constitution.
The economy in South Korea is struggling.
Yeah, cost of living is expensive as fuck. People don't make money. Yeah. Now, interesting. He don't want to do nothing about the birth rates. I would think that would be a priority right now. But okay.
To reduce the presidential term from 5 to 4 years, and replacing the single term limit with a consecutive 2-term one. His other proposed reforms include a runoff system.
Okay, I thought that in South Korea, the companies, the chaebol companies, they contribute a lot, and also in K-pop, they contribute a lot to the economy. And they're trying to...
K-pop is on downturn right now, and chaebol families, yeah, sure, they're getting richer. Doesn't mean the people are obviously...
No, but for the companies...
Yeah, but companies are getting richer, but it's no different than here in the States. Because companies are getting richer, but the people are not, so it's the same as in South Korea. Honestly, the rest of the world is the same. It's everywhere.
Presidential elections, and curbing presidential powers by restructuring the balance between President, Prime Minister, and National Assembly. Lee's purported shift to the centre can also be seen in his foreign policy position too. Having long taken a pretty critical view of the alliance with the US, cooperation with Japan, and calling for engagement with North Korea and China, during this election, Lee has pivoted to praising the US alliance as central to South Korea's foreign policy, and he's also said that he'll continue trilateral cooperation with Japan and the US, but still thinks dialogue with North Korea and China is important. Lee clearly recognises that one of his most pressing issues will be trying to protect South Korea's export-heavy economy from Donald Trump's trade wars, which the country has struggled to address due to its leadership vacuum over the past 6 months. Lee has notably already publicly praised Trump for his negotiation skills and noted that they both survived assassination attempts, so he's clearly, at least initially, seeking to build a warm personal relationship with the US president. However, on both domestic and foreign policy issues, there's natural scepticism at home and abroad whether Lee's self-styled pragmatic centrist shift is a lasting phenomenon rather than just a campaign strategy that will dissolve once in office.
That's what it sounds like to me. Honestly, I don't trust this guy at all. Don't really sound that good of a guy to me.
Ultimately, one of Lee's biggest challenges will be to try and heal South Korea's
his move
deeply
already.
polarized
He
politics.
was left and then he moved a little bit more center.
This looks fake.
which is far easier said than done, especially when you consider that he wasn't propelled to the presidency because of widespread personal appeal.
But then again,
Lee
he
has
also advertised to the people under that stance. So maybe the people just didn't like who they had on the right and the red party, and this was a little bit better for them because at the end of the day, the people picked.
Massively capitalised on the public's anger at the PPP for Yoon's martial law attempt, and has benefited from the fact that the party nominated a Yoon defensive candidate, who suffered due to the relative strength of a third-party conservative candidate.
But seeing
so,
this
while South Korea's
outfit,
political
I can see how Karina's look like that too.
Yeah.
They look very closely similar.
It is, yeah. Definitely seeing his outfit.
Yeah.
Definitely Karina is not far off that.
drama has definitely calmed down, don't expect it to be smooth sailing for President Lee, particularly as his ongoing legal cases.
If I seen this before and then saw Karina, I think I would immediately make the connection.
Which include alleged bribery and election law violations, could also complicate his presidency, as there's a debate over whether those trials will continue now he's taken office. If you want to know more about
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Seems like they picked the lesser of two evils, but I think it's still pretty evil, though. I don't think the
But,
guy's that good.
the 8% seem promising. Maybe in another election cycle it will grow.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. Can I see the comments?
Sure.
Maybe we see some familiar faces.
This new president is kind of boring. He should declare some sort of state of emergency to spice things up. I remember catching a late night screening of Wicked with friends here in Taiwan. Coming out of cinemas, all of us seeing breaking news that South Korea had declared martial law. It was even surreal even here. As the Korean PPP sealed its fate when they just defended President Yoon and criticized the Democratic Party while defending martial law. It was so unforgivable that we have no choice but to vote PPP out. I mean, yeah, but 41 people still like this, so, you know.
Yeah, that makes me wonder, like, what was the protest for if 41% still went with the red party? That's a lot. Guys, of course, let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Join the Discord. And as always, share as much kindness as possible.